Good.
Hi, everyone.
Happening? What's happening? It is Thursday,
Thursday night.
9 o'clock. And guess what that means?
We are on the couch.
We are on the couch. Not in the position I'd like to be. Let me say that much. Man would like to be stretched horizontal, not vertical. On this particular Thursday night, I'm trying to tell you, your boy's tired. I'm tired over here, wife. I'm tired. I'm exhausted. But
Well, wake up. We on the couch.
we on the couch. Vertical, might I add. Listen, that's Veta.
And that's Mac.
And this is
Couch
Conversations. Welcome. Always
Thanks for joining us
good
tonight.
to be here. You know, if I could be candid, can I be candid a little bit? Just a little bit? No?
Okay.
I shouldn't be candid. I won't be candid.
Okay.
Okay, never mind. I'll keep it to
I don't
myself.
know.
Welcome.
You gotta
Good
ask
evening.
me.
So good to be here. We didn't talk about that in the pre-production, so I'll keep it to myself. Anyway, we are always overjoyed, excited, and elated to be here with you. We count it a privilege and an honor that you take out the time to watch this. And I just want to throw this little tidbit out there. I know a lot of folks like to watch this on Friday during the day, Saturday, the weekend. Whenever you decide to sit down and watch this video, we're grateful. We appreciate it because we know that your time is valuable and it means a lot to you. It also means a lot to us that you share it with us. You allow us to occupy it for the 60 minutes or so that we do. So thank you for that. We appreciate it. And as always, we ask you each and every week, make sure you're following us on all social media platforms because we want to hear from you and we want to receive it from you.
Yes.
Information, questions, comments, suggestions. We're open to it all. Feedback is feedback. So make sure that you are following us on all of the social media platforms. Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram. We are on all of those. And so make sure that you're following Happy Spouse, Happy House. I know some of you may be following me personally or following my lovely wife personally. We appreciate that. We'd also like you to follow us on the Happy Spouse, Happy House Facebook page because that particular page is where a lot of the information will be shared primarily. And so we want to make sure that you are connecting with us on those social media platforms. So please make sure you're following us. We're on Twitter. You can send us a direct message on Twitter. You can send us a direct message on the Facebook page, also through the Instagram page. And so we love that. We've got a lot of exciting things coming up. 2020 really messed a lot of people up with this whole COVID situation. But so it caused us, even in the Happy Spouse, Happy House Marriage Enrichment Seminar, to push a few things back. So 2022 is going to be a big year for us. We're excited. A lot of new things are going to be launching, and we really want you to be a part. So make sure that you're connected to us on all the social media platforms so that you can stay abreast of what's going to be going on in the spouse domain. That didn't work. Okay. Anyway, for the last couple of weeks, did I just smack?
Yes, you did.
Oh, wow. I am super tired.
Wake up.
I am super tired. All right. For the last few weeks, we have been in a series on boundaries. And tonight we are continuing that series, part 3. And we've covered, let's see, what have we covered? We've covered in-laws. That was last week. We covered boundaries in general the week before, setting boundaries, honoring them among your friends and single friends and your married friends. And yes, you do need to have boundaries couple to couple. I think that's important that we have that. You know, there are couples that we're supremely close with. We're really close with, you know, ladies that I consider a sister. Fellas, I think you might consider a brother to a degree.
I don't have any
guy. My bad, bruh.
Do I?
I'm gonna let you answer that question.
I'll figure it out.
Yeah. Any of my friends who think that she thinks of you like a brother?
Yes, I do. I'm just not gonna name them.
Right. No names.
They're gonna be like, I know. I'm about to think. They be like, oh, she'll think of me as a brother. No names, but I do have a few.
Yes.
That are like brothers.
So, and even in those relationships, there are still boundaries. There are just certain lines that you don't cross. There are certain conversations you don't have, questions you don't ask. You know, there are just certain topics that you do not inquire of when it pertains to your spouse or to your friend's spouse. You know, even though there are several people that I might talk to about something going on between us, there's a line, there's a limit to what's shared.
You have to have
and
one.
all of that. Yeah. And you know, not to belabor that too much, but in all of the areas of boundaries that we're discussing in this series, you should inform your spouse. Hey, guess what? Thing that we dealt with, maybe the argument we had or the discussion we had. Well, I talked to so and so about it because I wanted to get their opinion. You know, we need to inform our spouse if we include somebody else,
or talk to your spouse before you say something.
I mean, ideally, you know, you would want to do it beforehand, but I think sometimes, you know, if it's a passionate discussion, you know, you may just need to get another point of view. Yeah. So, you know, but it may not, you know, if we're taking a break from talking with each other for a day or two, then maybe I need to just, you know what, let me go get some counsel from somebody else who's trusted. Yeah. Right, somebody that you're not going to fly off the handle. It has to be somebody you trust. Absolutely, somebody that we both trust. Yeah, you know, somebody you're not going to say, "Why would you talk to them of all people?" That kind of thing. Right. You know, if you've ever heard your spouse say that, why would you talk to them of all people? Make a mental note; they're off limits. Don't go back to that conversation. So we've been talking about all of that.
Yep, tonight we're talking about boundaries. Where?
Here on the couch.
Wake up.
I'm awake. We were doing some foundational stuff. So yes, tonight our focus is on, and it's a very interesting topic. So let me say it a couple of times just to make sure you get it. We'll also put it on the screen so you can see it. Tonight's topic, struggling over here. Part 3 of Boundary series, parent or parents of a child in common. The parent of a child or children in common. What in the what? Let's go to 5 shot because she having some challenges over there, and the people don't need to see that. They don't need to see that. That's B-roll footage. That's the bloopers, the outtakes. They don't need to see that. Anyway, that's what we're talking about. Let me kind of change that a little. Oh Lord, let me change that a little bit. Parents of child in common. So that means not you and your spouse.
I was laughing because you don't want to say what it means.
I'm getting to it. You know, you got to say it in a right context. People be like,
"What? What is that?"
You got to say it in the right context.
Parent of child in common.
What that means is, and you know, stay with me. I'm going somewhere. So you and I are married. If one of us were to have had a child prior to this relationship, that's the parent we're talking about. Stop laughing. Stay with me. You did this when we talked about this last week. I'm not messing with you. The parent of the child that would. So if I had a son by somebody else, right?
Yes.
We're talking about his mother, that parent.
Right.
That's the parent of the child in common.
I'm going to say it because.
Don't say it. Don't say it. Because it may not apply.
Why wouldn't it apply if it's the parent?
Because that may not be the situation parent to parent. We talk. Oh, go ahead and say it.
The baby mama.
Hate that term.
You don't like the term.
Oh, I hate that term.
That's like a common phrase. He's like the parent of the child in common.
Baby mama, baby daddy. Oh Lord, I hate that term.
I mean, that's what some people call them.
Yes, that is what some people call them.
It's not an endearing term, but
no, it's not. You very rarely use that term with
no, you rarely.
No, people in general. Okay. People in general don't always use that term endearingly, like you said.
Well, yeah, because it's been smashed and beat up, and
exactly,
it's a negative phrase. That's why.
And the reality is that baby mother could realistically be, or I'm sorry, could realistically have a good relationship.
Yeah.
With the father and the stepmother, and they're just. You know, they're all co-parenting together.
Yeah, and we made that phrase so ugly that people don't even want to be considered that. So I understand. It does sound. I wouldn't either if that was the case.
My baby mama. Really? Like, she's more than that. She's a woman, right? Let's start there. She's an adult. She's the parent.
So the boundary series, we're talking about the parent of the child in common, the way he was explaining it.
Right. That's what we're talking about. That's the title of tonight's topic of discussion, and it's centered around not the two parents who are married, the spouses who are married. It's focusing on that other parent. Right. So you had a child with somebody else, but then you got married to the one you're married to now. So setting boundaries with that other parent.
Right.
And you hear the stories all the time. They call whenever they feel like it. They drop by whenever they want to. They know when it's beef between the husband and the wife because, they talk about it. You know, there's always that concern that you might get back with them. There are just so many ideas and fears floating around that whole concept that it's really important that you set boundaries so that even though, okay, we have a child in common, a child together, that doesn't mean that you automatically have access to whenever you want, 24/7, 365. If something happens, if something goes wrong, then absolutely, we're talking emergency situation, you pick up the phone and call. If you just say, we need to talk about changing weekends, you don't call me at 11 o'clock at night for that. You wait until after 7
and then the child picks up on that type of attitude or that relationship, whether it be negative or positive. They pick up on that stuff and they feel some kind of way because it's just like, well, you treat my mama like that or you treat my daddy like that, so I'm not going to care about you. Saying, like, if it was the married couple who the child wasn't the parent of, you're not going to treat so-and-so like that because that's my mother and you not my mother. And it's just being disrespect to that parent. And that is not okay.
Right.
Because that's the person that the spouse has brought into your life and not to better the situation, but to better their situation. And it's not okay to disrespect that new parent just because that child has a parent that's not in that relationship.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's so vitally important that, we institute respect in the relationships and that we, provide that honor the person for the person that they are, the adult that they are. I mean, if I'm married to you and I have a baby mother, you don't
have to say it if you want. You look so uncomfortable.
I've got to begin the process of creating an atmosphere of respect.
Right.
That says to her, listen, this is my wife. So she takes precedence over you, whether we have kids or not.
Right.
Together, husband and wife.
Right.
If I have a child from a previous relationship, well, that child's parent first will learn the boundaries of respect from me, or at least they should.
Right.
Because we have the child in common and I'm bringing you into the scenario, the situation. And so it's my responsibility to establish those boundaries. And it's my responsibility to set them with you, not just my responsibility to set them and then respect them. And then that's the end of it. We have to talk it all the way out together.
Yeah.
Because you also have authority when those boundaries might get crossed.
Right.
If the boundary is, okay, well, she may need to get in touch with you for the child, but she should not be calling you all times of nights or texting you, or, well, she worked third shift. I don't care. That don't matter. Or, they're just boundaries you set for the communication aspect regarding the child.
Right. And it should, and even in conversations,
right,
boundaries should be set, because if you're not calling specifically for the child's need, then conversation shouldn't be had. Any other conversation should not be had. They shouldn't be knowing about what you do, what y'all doing today. No, where y'all going? No, no, stop. If you're not calling about the child, the purpose of the child with that parent, then it shouldn't be a conversation going on.
So let me throw this at you, wife.
Yes, husband.
I saw a post in one of the Facebook groups that I am a part of where the young lady was inquiring as to whether or not she was right or wrong in what she did. She has a child with a man, and he's no longer with her. He married someone else, the exact environment we're talking about.
Mhm.
Now, the man makes X amount of dollars a year. His wife makes, according to the Post, upwards of 6 figures a year, considerably more.
Mhm.
Child support had been set based on the man's income. The child's mother, the one who made the post, was inquiring as to whether or not she should take them back to court to increase her child support because the wife has a significantly higher income. What are your thoughts on that?
I don't know, that will have to be a conversation, because if they're married, then, and it depends on their financial, how they do their financial part in their household. Because if they're married and that child is a part of that marriage, although it's not that woman's child, they're still responsible. I don't want to say responsible, but I don't know. That's a tough one.
It really isn't.
It really isn't, but I'm not trying to.
That's not her money.
It's not. Yeah, it's not her money, and
Nor
that's
is that
not
her
the
responsibility.
responsibility. Yeah.
See, the reality is, well, from my perspective, let me say it that way. Let me
so
clarify that.
The woman wanted to increase because
the
of
child's
the wife's
mother. The child's mother,
right,
wanted to increase the child support that she was getting from the child's father, because the child's father's wife makes a significant amount of money. So the lady and the man had the baby.
Right.
They
I
didn't
understand
get
what you're
together.
saying. I'm just trying to wrap it around my head. Like, why is that information that the mom had?
That's what we did. Yeah.
And
see, that's
she
the
wouldn't want to
boundaries.
increase if she didn't
She should not
know how much.
She shouldn't have any
She shouldn't have any knowledge, yeah,
of
of
how
what
much
the
their wife is making. That's number A.
yeah.
She should
I about
and
to
see that's the boundary that
See
we
that
talk
I had
about.
to talk it out because
Yeah, yeah.
I was
Talk
about
it
to
out.
make an excuse and
We
be
got
like,
time.
yeah, because
Mhm.
it's in the household and they live together, and
Yeah.
and if you say that you love the child, then you should support.
Right.
But
Nope.
no, I had to
Talk
talk
it
it
out.
out myself.
Talk
But
it
yeah,
out.
she shouldn't even have knowledge of how much the wife make.
That's number A.
And somewhere the boundary got crossed where
Right.
that conversation came up, and she shouldn't have known about it.
Right. Of course she didn't go, and she may have gone into detail about how she found out, Google searched something or whatever. I don't know how she found out.
Oh, I forget that people's information is
depending upon what you do for a living, it's out there.
It's out there.
Right. But the point that she was kind of making was, I know how much she make. She makes all this money, and all he make is this money.
But she's not the child's
parent,
father or parent. Yeah.
Right.
I mean, the child may visit every once in a while with that, but that's not the responsibility of that wife to give money for that. I mean, little things like they go out together to eat and stuff, but no.
Yeah.
It's
tricky. It's very tricky. Thankfully, that's not our problem. But it's tricky. And please don't come for me. Don't stay out my DMs and all that other stuff with, I ain't got no business. You don't know. And it's okay.
It's okay. We talking it out on the couch.
These are the things that we talk about. These are the things
that this is what we talk about.
And again, we're just inviting you to our conversation. But that's tricky.
But comment below on that. Like,
let us know what you think.
Or should we be commenting on that?
Let me
because it's
let me go to Facebook, and I'm gonna pull up Facebook, and then y'all go ahead and drop some stuff in there, and we'll see what we got. How about that? But yeah, that is a challenging one, because you start crossing those lines of information and what's public knowledge versus private knowledge. What do I know? What am I not supposed to know? And all of those kinds of things. It begs the question, what am I allowed to know as a spouse? What am I allowed to share as a spouse? And so you've got to be careful that you're not sharing the wrong information, that you're not giving out information that you're not supposed to have, and things like that. Because you never know what people are going to do with that information.
That's true.
You really just never know how someone is going to process or disseminate the information that they obtain from you or from other sources regarding you or the people closest to you. So you have to be careful. Personally, I don't think she has any right to that, to the wife's money, because the wife didn't have anything to do with that. You had an arrangement set with that man
right with
prior to him getting married.
Right.
So if the courts awarded you X amount of dollars based on his income, that's the end of it.
Right.
If she decides to slide a couple dollars into the equation, that's her prerogative.
Right.
But to go back to court because you're struggling, well, you should have thought about that before. But anyway, I'm judging. I'm sorry. I apologize. Let me stop judging. I'm judging. I don't want to judge. We just here to talk.
Boundaries series. If you just joined us, this is our third part of boundaries. This one is parent of child and common.
Wow.
Parent of child and common.
Parent of child and common.
He doesn't like to say, but baby mama or baby daddy.
I just can't stand that phrase because it's so belittling. It's so demeaning.
But the mom of a child or the dad of the child, that's not in the marriage equation. That's not.
I'm hot, so I'm sorry. Yeah, that's what we're talking about tonight. And so let's talk about some boundaries on that. I mean, this discussion clearly was looking at the financial ramifications of it, but there are other ways where boundaries need to be set. As that other parent, what
emotional, mental, all of that stuff.
Are there rights that other parent has as it pertains to our relationship? Because we're not talking about the kid here. We're talking about the relationship between parent. Yeah. We're talking about adult to adult here. We're talking about the grown folks relationship. We're not talking about anything pertaining to the child because yes, that's your child. And so when it comes to the child, you have to take care of the child. We're talking about the adult to adult. As a man, if I have a child with a young lady, but I marry you, I shouldn't be talking to her about what's going on between you and me if we're having problems or even if we're good.
Right.
What goes on here, that doesn't.
The conversation, like I said, the conversation should only pertain to the child.
The child, right. Yeah. It's important that we establish boundaries. This is a hard topic. I don't know why
because we're not in that
scenario.
Yeah. But we need feedback. Like, how will you guys place boundaries in that type of relationship?
Yes.
Like, how do you place boundaries? Are there boundaries? What have you done?
Boundaries have you set?
How does it work?
Yeah.
Does it work? Does it not work?
Yeah.
Do you not need boundaries because the parent is not around?
I don't know that you could ever not need boundaries. I don't know.
With the parent?
There should always be boundaries in every relationship. There should always be
but what
boundaries.
if the parent isn't around? Like, don't want anything to do with the child?
Kind of doesn't count.
Okay, I don't know. We stuck on this topic because
we're not that stuck. I mean, if they not. I
can remember because my mom and dad was not married. Wasn't married, but my mom was married before, and we would go over to my dad's house maybe every other weekend.
Right.
But he was married, but the relationship between my dad and my mom was just the relationship, like, come pick up the kids for the weekend. That's it.
Cordial.
Cordial. Like, right. She didn't want to know who he was married. I mean, like, the name or whatever. And he did get married, and her name is whatever the name is. But that was it.
Right.
Once we were with Dad, that was his prerogative. Like, whatever he did with us, that's what it was. And like, when we got back home, it wasn't like, what's her name? Well, how much money she make? Where y'all go? Did she give you this? Did she get? It was never that. It was always a respect point. Like, you guys are with your dad. And like, when we returned, it was just like, did you have fun? Okay.
Right.
It was never like,
did
she talk about it? Like, it was never like that. It's just how you, and I don't think there was, I don't know if they talk, but because as a child, you don't see, well, some kids don't. I'm about saying you don't see the parents communicating, but it's sad the way, unfortunately, some kids do see how the parents communicate, and it affects them mentally, emotionally. And that's not good to have conversations, have heated discussions in front of your kids about that. Just like the movie. I always have to bring up this movie. Why Did I Get Married? Was it the second one? And the mom, he had the kids with the girl, but then he married, what's her name? Tasha in the
Angela, and then, well, her character was Angela.
I mean Angela.
Was that the second one or the first one? That was the second one, because
I
the
think it
first
was
one
the
they was
second
all
one.
up on. No, that was the first one. That was
But
the
it,
first
that was
one.
the
You talking
that
about
was
when they had the argument outside the house?
yeah.
And he set them both
And he
straight?
said on both
That was the
straight.
first
Yeah.
one. Yeah, that was the
It was
first
just like, well, thank you. Like, how long was you gonna let that go on?
Yeah.
Like they were bickering through the whole. I mean, but that's how some relationships
Yeah.
are. Like they is no compromise, there's no communication. It's just like whatever I say, and if you don't say and da 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 da, and the guy's just like, well, I don't want to have nothing to do with you, and blah blah blah.
Mhm.
But it shouldn't be to the point where the kids are affected, because the children, for one, is the number one purpose in that relationship, because you did have a child with that person and then you have remarried, and there should be boundaries
Yeah.
with those parents.
Yeah.
Go ahead. It was like a weird pause.
Well, you yeah.
Go ahead. I
you
said
just
okay.
kinda-
Go.
Yeah. Stop. Okay. But yes, there should be. You know, and art imitates life. So reality is that whole interaction was drawn from life experience. You see that a lot, where parents won't establish a boundary um, in the relationships, and then the conversations. You may be cordial, you may get along, the three of you may be able to coexist in the same space until somebody starts saying things they shouldn't.
Yeah.
Somebody starts displaying body language that they shouldn't. But it's okay, that you start justifying it and validating it. But the reality is that person, although there is a child in common, is no greater of importance than your spouse or than anybody else.
That's
really,
true. It's no greater importance than your spouse, because
Spouse
you
has to be
married.
number one.
Your spouse has to be number one, especially in those relationships, because that's who you married.
Yeah.
And because you have a child with somebody else, that spouse becomes your number one priority
over
everything else and everybody else. And especially if you have the child, because then that spouse becomes responsible for that child, because you're in the same household.
Yeah.
And if you're having a agreement about how you're going to raise that child, well, if that child lives in the household with those two parents who just remarried and not the parent who you had the child with,
yeah,
it's whatever goes in that household, because they're in agreement in that household.
Yeah. It's important that the husband and the wife sit down and talk it out.
Yeah.
Map it out, lay it out, so that there's no confusion.
Right.
Because when it comes to boundaries,
Can't hear you.
Oh. Can you hear me now?
Yes. Now I can hear you.
When it comes to boundaries, it's important that we have them and we make other people aware of what they are. If I have a boundary, there's a line that I don't want you to cross, but I never tell you what that line is. Well, then I'm not honestly able to hold you accountable for crossing that line.
Right.
Because you didn't know that the line was there.
Because once you cross, you're going to get hit every time. Especially if I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. And so that's why it's important that we talk it out, have the conversation. When it comes to people out of marriage, and in this particular instance, that parent of your child, you have to have the conversation about boundaries. What is too far for you? What is off limits for you, versus because what I might be comfortable with, you may not be comfortable with. And if you never tell me that you're uncomfortable, then I'll just let it go on. And you've got some people who are very dominant personalities. And so as a result of them being a dominant personality, they will be aggressive and they'll be boisterous. They'll be very upfront and in your face about it. And if there's a passive person involved, they may that's just the way they are. It doesn't bother me. I've learned to become numb to that encounter, where it may be offending you all day long. So you've got to have the conversation that says, listen, when that happens, when they say that, when they do that, it makes me supremely uncomfortable. We talk about movies a lot, and I was watching. It's an old movie. You've never heard of it, probably. It's called My Blue Heaven with Steve Martin and what's the little dude's name? I forget the little dude's name. But anyway, in the movie, the little dude I was just talking about, he started dating this single mom, and so the first time he spent the night over there, the next morning, her ex came over to pick up the kid. Well, the ex just literally walks in the front door like, yo, I'm here. Where you at, kiddo? Let's roll, thinking nothing of it.
Mm-hmm.
And so the little dude comes over. Hey, good morning. How you doing? Introduces himself, shook his hand. But when he grabbed his hand, I think he twisted it, banged him into the door, something, took him back outside. He said, listen, next time you come over, use the doorbell. Don't just walk into the house. Just show some respect. He put him in his place. And of course, the mom was just like, wow, in every other area of her life, she was stiff. She was rigid. She was by the book. She was, no nonsense. When it came to the ex-husband, she couldn't assert herself. Mm-hmm. She couldn't be firm. She couldn't stand up for herself. And she required somebody else to do that. And when he did that, it changed things for her. Sometimes we don't know how to set a boundary with people because of the relationship and the dynamics thereof. You get somebody who's aggressive, you get somebody who's overbearing. And so you become the opposite, passive and withdrawn. And so even though the relationship may have ended because there's a child involved, I'm still me, you're still you. And, we're still doing that. And the challenge is, I don't know how to create or enforce a boundary because I've never done it before.
Right.
When you've done when you've had a relationship with somebody and you never enforced boundaries, you never created boundaries. Now you're doing life with somebody else. You're in a relationship with somebody else, and you still have to deal with that other person, i.e. the parent of the child in common. So I never had boundaries with them before. And even though you're here and I chose you and I married you and we're doing life together, I don't know how to do boundaries with them.
Right.
So you have to either establish that boundary or allow that boundary to be established by your new spouse and then support them in enforcing that boundary.
Well, yeah, because it creates conflict if you're not on one page and boundaries will get crossed. And if you timid and passive and you just like, oh, it's okay, then it will cause friction in your current marriage that you're in.
Big conflict.
Yes, big conflict.
Right.
Yes.
Because what you're not about to do is walk all over my wife. That's what you're not about to do.
Right.
Bruh.
So yes, it has to be boundaries that you set, and that especially in that type of relationship, because it can become heated.
Yeah.
You talking about baby mamas and baby daddies, and then it'll be like fights and
we throwing hands.
That's my child, and
try Jesus.
You don't get to tell me what to do, my child, and blah blah blah, and all of that. And so boundaries.
They are so vitally important in the relationship, and like we said, if you struggle with setting boundaries with your child's parent, husband, father or mother, allow your spouse to set that boundary. Be honest with your spouse. Hey, wife, I struggle with her. Help me set some boundaries, and I'll support you in them. Let's talk it out. Let's have the conversation. You tell me what the boundaries should be.
And if it's communication, it can be a pleasant relationship between the new spouse and the parents. It can be a positive relationship, but that's only if you talk it out and have a conversation and talk about what the boundaries are and what you dislike or don't like, but you have to have the conversation, because if you have a child with the person, both of you are in a relationship until that child becomes
an
adult.
Right.
So if they're not an adult, you still have to have that relationship with that parent, but you still have to set boundaries in the new relationship with that parent. You can say that parent, but you know what I'm talking about. And children need stability in a household. I'm sorry. I know we're not talking about the kids.
She's a teacher. She like babies. I don't know. Help me. Everything got to be about the babies.
it affects the children
all day long.
all day long. So we're talking about parents of the child.
Yeah, I'm trying not to bring any real life into this. She's a teacher, so some of these scenarios she's familiar with. But she's been teaching for you've been teaching for almost 20 years.
I have.
No, not 20 years. That's not right.
18.
No, 18. Not that many, because we've been married 20, baby.
Well, I've been teaching since your child been. How old is it? Oldest?
You've been teaching since 2005.
Well, 16 years.
So 16 years, yeah. Yeah, okay. 16 years she's been
16
teaching.
Years.
3 different states also in that. So don't think that if she does tell a story, she talk about you.
No, I'm not.
She's got a lot of history with teaching. She's taught a lot of babies, taught a lot of kids, interacted with a lot of families. So I don't know if you can count them all.
No.
It's been so many. So,
but parents can be very mean.
Yes.
Because of the relationship that they have with the other parent.
Yeah.
If the parent of the child in common moves on,
right,
it can be very brutal.
Yeah.
Especially in the school setting, because it's just like, no, he can't pick him up because he's not on the list. Or I don't want the other girl to pick or the other guy to pick him up because that's my child. Like, it can be very
not allowed to go with them.
Yeah, not allowed to go with them.
That's
and you
kidnapping.
Can't see that family, and I'm caught like, come on.
Those are the wrong kind of boundaries.
It's just like, grow up.
Those are the wrong kind of boundaries. That's not what we're talking about. Boundaries are helpful because they let you know the lane to operate in. And so it is important that we have those boundaries. And it's important that you have the conversation about them. Clearly, we're not qualified to tell you what the boundaries should be. We can speculate. We can offer our opinion. You're living it. And so the best we can do for you is encourage you to have a conversation with your spouse.
Yes.
Husbands, sit down with your wife. Wives, sit down with your husbands and talk it out. And then once you've established those boundaries, bring in that other parent
with the parent
and let them know, okay, here's where we are.
Together. Do it together.
Yes.
Don't do it.
Don't let him be. Don't make him responsible for talking to his baby mama.
Yes.
Without you there.
Without you there. Be there, because anything could be said.
Yeah.
And it can be miscrewed and misunderstood. But let that parent, the parent of the child in common, come into that conversation that you and your spouse had, because it's very important that you guys are on the same page, and that parent of the child in common sees how you communicate,
right,
and know that you are on the same page, and that there's not just one-sided relationship.
United front.
And you're united in.
And the biggest thing is, this is something that we don't do enough of. Stop having the conversation about boundaries in your house. Go to lunch, go to dinner, go to breakfast, meet someplace neutral. Not your house, not their house, not your parents' house. Go to a restaurant, meet in the mall, someplace neutral where it doesn't give the impression that one person has. Sometimes the husband and the wife, let's get out of the house. Let's go into the park and talk about our boundaries or whatever's going on between us, because it's important that everyone perceives we're on the same page, or on the same level, and even keel, if you will, and not somebody else has the upper hand.
Yes,
that's the worst thing you could ever do, is try to have a positive conversation with somebody in a negative environment.
Right.
And I know what you think. Well, home is not a negative environment. You're making it one.
Right.
Especially when you're the one instituting boundaries that the other person may find offensive or minimally uncomfortable.
That's good. That's good.
So it's important that we do that.
And not around family members.
No.
Because they will encourage
the wrong thing.
The wrong thing.
Daddy going to always look out for his little girl.
Right.
Mama gonna always look out for her little boy. That's my baby. I just watched the end of that movie, Jumping in the Broom, the other day. Made me so mad. Oh, that movie made me so mad. That's my baby. 40-year-old man talking about, I'm gonna call you a podiatrist. I know, pediatrician. That man got no pediatrician. He got, anyway. But it's important that we
always talk about movies.
Yeah, we do that because we do watch sometime. We don't watch them that often anymore. We need a movie night, wife.
We need a movie night.
We need a movie night.
Throw us out some good movies that we could watch.
No. I think we got that covered. We all right there. Because y'all be suggesting stuff that, she gonna not watch or I'm not gonna enjoy. So we be all right. Appreciate it. Boundaries with the parent of a child in common.
If you're just joining us, the boundaries part 3 is what we're on.
3. And this
parent of the child in common.
This was a challenging topic for us again, because this is an area we don't have anything,
because we haven't been through it.
Knowledge, right.
I mean, but this is this is a conversation that we've had before.
Right.
And not be like, we've had it before because we know people in our family who are going through this topic.
Right.
But we haven't been through it. So it's a struggle for us to try to talk about it, because only if you're watching and you're in that situation, only you know
what you're going through.
Like what you're going through. Like we haven't been through that.
Yeah. Every husband and wife should have a conversation about boundaries. And your conversation about boundaries should encompass every aspect of your life as individuals and as a married couple, because the reality is everything that impacts me impacts you.
Yep.
You may not ever talk to a mother of a child that I had before you. You may not ever engage with her. You may not ever interact with her. Nevertheless, if I'm paying child support, that impacts you because that's less money in the house. If I'm spending time with the child, that's less time I'm spending with you. If I do have to go to her house to pick up the child, if I have to go to her house to have a conversation about the child, if I have to go to a parent teacher meeting with her, all of those things impact you because A, I'm not with you, and 2, I'm also with another woman.
Yes. Or man
in the other sense.
I mean, not you, but
the idea is
in the relationship.
The idea is, it's putting me in a position where I'm engaged with, somebody else that I have history with.
Right.
And so if we're not on the same page about my intentions and my motivations and where my allegiance lies,
right,
then it can cause a disruption in our marriage. And that's what we're trying to avoid by having the conversation about boundaries, is avoiding the disruption in the marriage. You don't want there to be any area of confusion. You don't want there to be any areas where things could be misconstrued, like you said earlier. I don't want you to misinterpret what I'm saying. And so as a result of that, we need to have conversations. We need to be as transparent as possible. If the child's parent calls or text, your spouse ought to be able to know what they said.
Right.
Whether it ain't gonna do with you, it's got everything to do with them. That's not true. They may not do anything with the information. They still are entitled to having it. There's no such thing as it's classified.
Right.
That's not how that works. I've heard horror stories. I call them horror stories. They don't always be horror stories, but I've heard stories of guys. Oh, she ran out of gas. Let me go help her out. Oh, she needs something fixed in the house. Let me go over there. And the excuse or the justification is always the child
baby,
involved.
Yeah, that's the
mom. And that's just
my child's
so far
mother.
From the truth. You don't get the spousal privilege without being the spouse.
That's right. Say that again.
You don't get the spousal privilege.
You do not get the spousal
without being the spouse.
Without being the spouse.
Because the privilege comes with responsibility.
You are not important no more.
I wouldn't say that.
You're not.
You're not the number one priority.
You're not the number one priority anymore.
And your problems are not my problems. Even if they somehow remotely impact my child, that doesn't necessarily mean that your problems are my problems. Because I've got somebody who is
my problem.
And so that's where that is. I'm so glad we don't go through this.
We praying for y'all who go through this.
Absolutely.
Praying for y'all hard.
Absolutely. Because I'm telling
and if there is a positive relationship, out there with the parent of the child in common. Bless you because
Yeah.
you have communicated those boundaries and it works for you.
Yeah.
Help somebody else out. Pass
Yeah.
on the blessing.
Now, I will say this: there are those at work. There are
Yeah.
examples out there of co-parenting that work, of relationships with effective and initiated boundaries that have been established and that are respected regularly. So it is possible, it's very possible to have a marital relationship with a bonus parent and there still be
A great example, Jada Smith and Will Smith. We don't know them, but
they are not a great example. Sorry.
No,
they are not a great example. We don't know them.
We don't, but I'm just saying what I've seen. They've explained it. RTT, they're not sponsoring this, but if y'all watch that,
okay,
it's a good example.
If you say so, I'll take your word for it because I don't watch that. But yeah, that's where we are. What?
Go ahead.
Well, that wasn't mean. That was real.
Go ahead.
What? What?
I hope they're not watching.
Why? Okay, I'm in trouble. All right. Hopefully this has been outstanding.
We're back.
All right, a little technical difficulty. Not sure what happened there. We were frozen for a second. Hope you're still with us. Not sure what's going on, but I think we're going to wrap up tonight because I'm over here sweating and this is getting very challenging. So, you got a Veda's verse for us tonight?
I do have a Veda's verse tonight.
Outstanding.
It's very short though.
That's all right because, yeah, before these technical difficulties jump in out there, we just want to bring it on home.
Veda's verse for tonight is RESPECT. Respect. Respect means you not only value your mate, but you let your mate teach you. If your mate has important God-given abilities you don't have, his or her contributions to your life is essential. I have found that the more I respect my husband for his abilities, the more I am able to trust him. The more I trust him, the more he is free to exercise his gifts, which in turn gains my respect. Proverbs 11:16 and 17 says, a kind-hearted woman gains respect, but ruthless men gain only wealth. A kind man benefits himself, but a cruel man brings trouble on himself. That is Veda's verse for tonight.
Respect.
RESPECT. Respect. RESPECT.
Ho. They done already put out 2 movies. We good. We straight. We straight. She went from being a teacher to being a singer. Help me, Lord Jesus. 2 seconds ago, she teaching kindergarten. Now she teaching. Okay.
I do not own the rights to that song. Yeah, you always got to say that. Sorry.
It's terrible. It's terrible.
Suck it to me. Respect just a little bit. Respect each other in every situation.
I want to go back and look at those lyrics because she said sock it to me, right? That's the lyric?
I don't know.
Sock it to me, sock it to me, sock it to me.
I don't know. She might be saying something else.
I think I'm going to go back and look those lyrics up because that confuses me.
Wrap it up.
All right, listen.
Respect. That was Veda's verse for today. RESPECT. Respect. And it was Proverbs 11:16 and 17.
Yes, good stuff. Respect. And that really lines up with what we've been talking about because respect is vital to a healthy relationship. Okay. We are going to have a part 4 next week. And this one will probably be
the last one?
Well, it's going to be the last one because we
Oh.
were just doing the month of July.
Oh, okay.
So it's probably going to be another heavy hitter as well, because we're talking about boundaries as it pertains to your children. The ones that still live in the house and the ones who are supposed to be grown. Because at the end of the day, the reality is you need boundaries between them crumb snatches and your marriage. So we're going to be talking about that next week. Make sure you tune in, jump in, be here. Send us some thoughts. Send us some notes. Try not to critique tonight's show. Try not to critique tonight's show too much, because we were just trying to get through it. It's a hard topic.
It's a hard topic.
But we wanted to at least address it, bring it to the table for your sake. To give you the opportunity to talk about it amongst yourselves.
And remember, we're not professionals.
We are not here trying to say that what we're telling you is law.
It's law, right?
It's what we've come to know over the 20 years that we've been married, 22
and
years
what we talk about on our couch.
And what we talk about on our couch. So take it with a grain of salt. Prayerfully, it's helping you. If not, we understand. Not everything's for everybody. All right. You got anything else you want to throw out there? That's it? Okay.
Nope.
So cute. So we're going to wrap it up. Listen, she's Vetta.
And he's Mac.
And this has been Couch Conversations. We'll see you next week.
Have a great night.